Knows Nada. My name is Brianna, and this is the Mama Knows Nada podcast. I'm throwing it back a few years. This is my former colleague and friend, Alex Vega. Most likely I'll refer to her as Vega. We worked together at North Italia in Southern California, to which she found out quite quickly that she was expecting her little nugget. So we're going to go back to that moment right off the bat. Vega, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about what that was like when you found out you were pregnant and you just gotten promoted to a manager in a restaurant. WTF.
Okay, so, thank you so much for having me. That was, okay, so I was living in Southern California, opening a restaurant, didn't know anyone, and like I said, just got promoted to management, found out I was pregnant. So I came into the restaurant, everyone thought I was like hungover, because I, 25 years old, living in LA, and, whatever, duh. And so people were like, I was like, no, I feel something weird, because I remember we had a manager meeting, and we all ate salmon. And I was like, is that salmon I always eat it, it's so good. And everyone's like, I was like, did you get sick? They're like, no, I'm fine. I was like, that's so weird. Like, I got really sick over the salmon. So one of the Chef Zach, he made me like this like ginger tea. Turns out that night I was going down to see baby daddy. He lives in Southern California, Orange County at that time. And I found out I just went to get a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant. And I literally remember sitting in there. I went to Planned Parenthood, and they're like, well, because I went like a month before, and I assumed that like when you peed and they like tested you for, pregnancy already. I just like assumed. I didn't know, because I was like, I was already here. I like yelled at the person. She's like, you're positive. I was like, for what? And I was like giving her so much attitude. I was like, for what? And she was like, pregnant. I was like, no, I would know that. I would know I'm pregnant. Like, I was like mad at her for assuming.
Right.
I was like, I just was here, and she was like, well, no, you're pregnant. I was like, I would know that. Like, I know my own body. Turns out, apparently I don't know my own body. I was 4 months. 4 months into cooking a baby. It's not funny. It's not funny, but it is funny now. It wasn't funny then. I remember sitting there, and they're like, yeah, like, when was the last period? And I was like, well, at the time, I only got, like, periods, like, 4... I never was on birth control, so, like, also, hello. But, 4 months at a time.
Oh, wow.
And so, so it never was like an issue. And then I started managing, I want to say October, because that's when they trained me. And then January, I want to say 16th is when I found out I was pregnant. And, that's a long time. And I went in to go to Planned Parenthood. They're like, well, how far along were you? And I was like, well, I don't know the last period. I have no idea. I literally have no idea. And they said it was like 11 weeks. I went to go get an ultrasound. The lady was like, oh no. She literally said, oh no, I'm not educated enough, or like she's not certified enough to like do this far along. I was like, what do you mean this far along? This is before I knew I was 4 months pregnant. And I was like, what do you mean? So I'm like laying there spread open, like freaking out, crying. They took the little wand thing and then they lube it all up, because this was the one up above, I forget what it's called. You know how when you get a little sonogram and it's like,
yeah.
Well, no, she was just like, oh no. She freaked out. So then they had to do the insertion one. And they're like, so I'm like crying, freaking out. They said, you're at 17 weeks pregnant. And I was just like, I lost it. Like, I was scared. I was crying. I was like, how could I let this happen? I just thought I was getting fat because it was like after Christmas, I was like, just Christmas chub. It happens all the time. I eat too many cookies. It's fine. Okay. It happens all the time. And I'm just like, no, I used to make fun of those girls that like, I didn't know I was pregnant. I'm going to poop on a toilet. Poop out a baby on a toilet. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, I used to make fun of those girls. I was like, how do you not know? And I'm like, I'm one of those. I was like, that's so bad. So
at least you found out before you got on the toilet and shot a baby out. That's a win. We're gonna call that a win. See, thank you. No disrespect to anybody who does that, but that's a win.
For sure. I was just like, oh my God. And so I think I went back to work on a Wednesday or something, and I remember like in a pre-shift. I don't know, were you there? I was in a pre-shift and like announced, I was like, so I'm going back to Irvine. Yeah. I like announced to like my whole staff, because we opened that restaurant together. And I remember like one of the girls, Crystal, she's who's also a mommy now.
Yeah.
She was like, mouthing me like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then I told her, and I just like told everybody. I was just like crying and like worried and just like, what am I gonna do? Like I remember that moment I found out. I was like, it was like in my little apartment in Hawthorne, California, just like crying. I think I was on my phone with my mom, like so loud. I think like the neighbors were like, "Are you okay?" Like, what's
No,
wrong?
but yes,
like,
but
not
no.
okay. No, and it's just like, and I knew right then and there, I was like, I'm gonna be a single mom, like crying about it, and because such like a stigma that goes around with that. I remember like a friend telling me, she was like, "Oh, you're now a statistic," and I was like, "Oh, okay,
Thanks.
thanks."
It's kind.
Thanks. Yeah, right. Like out of all the things you could have said, like in that moment, like yeah, like
Make me feel good.
so, yeah, exactly. And I was like just crying. I just felt like numb for a while, and like I cut my lease, and I just moved back, and I didn't go to. I transferred back to the same company to Irvine, but I just was like, they were like, we don't have any management positions, and I was like, that's fine. I'm like 4-ish months pregnant. I'm not gonna manage. I'm gonna serve tables just real quick, you know, because now literally my life changed literally in that moment, you know.
Yeah. Totally.
It's like, do I, you know, like now I have to prepare for a baby. I have now 5 months to prepare for a baby.
All by yourself with all the things.
All the things, all by myself. At the time when I moved back, my parents were living in San Clemente, California, in a 2-bedroom apartment, and so I took myself and then eventually Dom to that house apartment. It's like a little box.
Aww.
And it's just like, how do I got rid of my bed, I got rid of this, and I just like left it all there. I, you know, brought my clothes, whatever, and just kind of, I remember just like sitting there, like in my parents' room, or living room, just like, what do I do now? You know, he's just like, what do you do now? What do you do now? At the moment, there's no like, you can read all the books and you can do all that, and it's just like, I literally, the day before I found out I was pregnant, I thought we were just, you know, just shopping for clothes, just got a little too chubby, and I'm just working at my restaurant job, and that's like, I never, like, my plans were like, skirt, just kidding.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
In 2 seconds, you know, and so changing your eating, changing everything. There's just so much, you know, and then your mind is just like racing. And you're just kind of like, well, and so eventually I had to tell the dad.
How'd that go?
He didn't believe me, and he didn't want it.
Oh man.
Yeah,
That's tough.
Yeah, which was really hard for me, because also like we were together at the time for, well, not at the time. We'd been together for like 5 years before then, 4 or 5 years at the time. So it's like we were having like, when I met you, we were not together. I moved up to also go to the area away from him, and I was thinking in my head, I'm like, oh well, you know, maybe we'll work things out if he realized what he's lost, and what all these lies we tell ourselves. You know what I mean? Like all these things, and we're like, okay,
there's a topic of conversation.
Yeah, right. That's another. Sign me up for that one too.
Got you there.
So, yeah, right. And it's just like all these things, and obviously it didn't go as what I thought. I romanticized in my head, you know. And he just wasn't receiving my news like I thought.
Yeah. I guess I
don't really know what I thought at the time. Now looking back, I guess I don't really know what I thought. You know, like, did I think like we're gonna get married when it was already such a volatile, really like abusive relationship before? No. Did I even want that? No. So
it's interesting the things we tell ourselves and the situations we think we. Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Very loud and clear.
Right, and it's just like, I don't know. I really don't know, and so. Just all the adjustments, and then telling all your friends, and then I remember, like, so my birthday's January 25th, and so a couple people knew, and I remember going to dinner, and everyone's like, oh, you know, I was like a party girl, and everyone's like, Alex, like, are you drinking? And I was like, yeah, so I went to the server, I was like, hey, can I get a virgin pina colada, but just don't tell anyone, like, tell them it's a real pina colada, you know, and he starts laughing at me, because I also knew him from prior, so he just kind of, like, looked at me like, and my friend's like, what are you doing? Like, after dinner, everyone's like, let's go out to dinner and party, and I'm like, that's when I told the rest of my best friends, like, hey, we're having a baby.
He's ready to be an aunt and uncle. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a big deal. And then like, I think I took like a week or two off in order to start the new job, just to like, I don't even know what, just to readjust.
Yeah.
And so then I started serving tables, and I just was like,
It's like a mental adjustment, you know? I mean, there's like a switch that flips. I talk about this a lot with my husband. I'm like, you didn't and never will. And this is no, I'm not trying to slander men, but
right.
There's just something that happens when a woman finds out she's pregnant. It just triggers, And it's like
100%.
Everything about your choices changes in a moment, and you can't describe it, you can't verbalize it. It just changes. You do things differently, you eat differently.
Yes.
You have to cut out 99.9% of all the alcohol, and how are you keeping this thing alive? Like, that's not a pressure that a man ever feels. So it's interesting.
Like, responsibility like comes over you all of a sudden. You're just like, it's so overwhelming. It's just so overwhelming, and I don't think people talk enough about like that moment. Just because, I mean, you don't need to, because everyone's situation is different.
Right.
Some people plan, some people unplanned. Like mine was obviously unexpected.
Well, mine was too. So
yeah. So it's just we all find out in a different way, and so it was just this crazy feeling, and like you said, you won't really know unless you experience yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you ended up. Well, tell us about your son. He's 5. We were chatting about. 5. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yes, his name's Dominic.
My husband's name.
I know, it's so cute. Okay, so his name's Dominic. Cool. His middle name is Carter, and his last name, he has my last name, Vega.
My last name is Carter, right? I didn't change my name when I got married. Yeah. No, I didn't change it. I didn't take my husband's last name. But yeah, so when you named him like Dominic Carter, I was like, shit, that's my boy.
That's so awesome.
He doesn't even know it yet.
That's so funny. I just got a flashback to like seeing your name on hot schedules.
I'm sorry for that trauma.
I know, right? That's
for real.
That's another topic. We can talk about that too. But so Dominic, he's so cool. He's so awesome. He was 5 in June. Just started kindergarten. Just started soccer. He just had his first soccer game this past Saturday. He's so cute. It's so cute.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny. Oh my gosh! Like every day, the season got pushed back for soccer. So like every day when we first started practicing, he's like, "Mama, do I have soccer again? Do I have soccer today?" I was like, "No, not yet, but we can go play." Like I played when I was younger, So I'm like, I love it, So it's super cute. But he's so fun. He also too. He just got last Friday. The teacher emailed us and was like, we want to go, we want to surprise your son, and we have a character award for him. So he got an award for his first award at the assembly. They got called up for Zest, and he's like, so, and I kind of looked it up, and I was like, Zest, what really do they mean by that? And just like, super enthusiastic, and it's just super into like, yes, and I just love it, and it's just so cute to see, like, because he doesn't have, like, okay, we can also go through this topic, like, his dad's not in the picture.
Okay.
I always would get worried, like, is he going to be, shy, insecure? I mean, like, obviously, like, kids are like that regardless, because they're young and they're babies,
Yeah,
and,
totally.
But I was just so worried, like, am I doing enough? Is he going to get that, like, confidence, or enough to be like, you are enough just because you don't have a dad right now.
Right.
Or just because your family might look a little bit different than, like, your friend's family.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only child. So,
right.
like, we have a lot of kids in our neighborhood that they have brothers and sisters, and he's the youngest one, and he gets bullied a lot.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that hurts. I had to cuss out a 10-year-old the other day. Not really, but kind of.
But kind of.
But kind of. I kind of just was like, I'm going to go get your mom, blah, blah, blah. Because we've been doing it for a couple months, and I was just like, okay, trying to. And I'm not that person to be like, oh, my son's so perfect if he's doing something bad.
Right.
You gotta tell
100%.
Hey,
don't be a jerk.
Like, don't be a jerk. Yeah. And so, yeah. But
do you know why he's been getting bullied, or like what the situations are? Like,
so
just big kids being big kids and
they're
assholes?
being big kids. And I think he's learning these new ways to like play and be social with people. And they're bigger kids, and they have a little bit of sister, so they're used to that, like, rough house and the names T. Like, he doesn't have that. You know, he lives here. Like, I live currently with my parents, so it's me, my mom, my dad, and Dominic. We live in Plano, Texas, and we live in like a little 2-bedroom house, and it's like a townhome almost, and all of the garages face each other.
Yeah,
super cute family area. You know, there's a park in front, and all the little kids are, you know, like 5 to maybe like 10, and the one thing I do have noticed that they didn't really want to play with him because these people are of a certain, like, I guess I don't know what to say it correctly, but like ethnicity, nationality, and they're all Indians, and he's not, and so they're like, you can't play with us. My mom said you can't play with us, and for a 5-year-old to not understand that, it breaks my heart.
Really funny you say that.
Yes.
My husband is British, so he's like the whitest of the white, you know what I mean? He was born in Scotland, he's adopted, and he was a cricket player, like semi-pro cricket player in the UK. So when he moved to Dallas for work 5 years ago, he tried to join a cricket league.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they did not want him to play because he was the white guy. And they were all of, I don't know exactly all different ethnicities, but other countries who play cricket who were non-white. And so it's interesting because there is a huge immigrant population and like a bunch of different minorities outside and around Dallas. It's crazy, like how multicultural that area is. And I actually really appreciated that about living in Dallas.
Yes.
It was like more than I would have ever imagined in that city. But it is interesting how sometimes those situations arise. Right. You know, and your son is mixed. He's Latino and Black. So what an interesting thing to feel as a 5-year-old, you know? That's a very crazy situation.
It is. And I growing up in Southern Orange County, I experienced that, but I didn't experience it till like middle school, high school.
Oh, wow.
Where they were like, you're too Latina for the, or like you're too Mexican for the whites, and then I'm too white for the Mexican, or vice versa, whatever. And I always felt like, I'm like, okay, what do you mean? I'm just Alex. Like, I'm just Alex.
Yeah.
And this is me. And I remember one girl in 8th grade, her mom was like, or didn't want me to hang out with her daughter anymore because I was Mexican, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, we have like the best time. I don't understand. What do you mean by that? And I guess I really didn't. I was sad, you know, because I was like, they don't want to hang out with me. But then, like, as you get older, you're kind of like, wow, that was real messed up, you know, because you don't, like, I didn't really, especially for like a mom to say that, like, and it's like here too, like the moms are saying it.
Yeah, it's you're projecting your own prejudices onto these children
and they're children.
They're children. What the F is your problem?
And that's what I'm saying. I told Dominic all the time, and I'm like, you are 5 years old, and you're coming in crying half the time, hanging out with these kids, and you're supposed to be having the time of your life, playing hide and seek, playing soccer, and riding scooters, and riding bikes, and not crying all the time because they're making fun of you, and because you're not, I don't know, you know, whatever culture, whatever they say, you know, and it's just kind of frustrating. It's real frustrating, to be honest with you, because how do you explain? Because he'll see, like, on SpongeBob the other day, he's like, well, SpongeBob was getting picked on, but, you know, I don't understand why they still make fun of me. And you can tell that he's, like, thinking about it, because we'll be fine all day, and we'll be driving in the car, and all of a sudden, like, I'll think in my head, okay, you know, maybe we're over this situation at the moment, and he'll just, nothing has happened before in, like, a week or two, like, no incident, and then you can tell he's still thinking about it, because he'll be, like, last night, he was like, Mama, good people always win. And I was like, they do. I was like, they may not feel like that day or the time, but they do. You know, and you can tell he's thinking about it. He's really hurt by it. You know, which makes me sad, because he's such like a fun. He's so silly. He likes to perform, and he likes to, you know, he's a 5-year-old. He likes to. My mom calls it bebopping around. He's just like dancing and skipping, and he loves to play bikes, and he just, you know. So just that really, really bothers me, and then I worry as a mom. I'm like, oh my God, like.
Yeah.
Because it messed me up real bad in high school. Like, why do they want to hang out with me? Like, I'm.
Well, because it's like, you don't want to slander. This is my take on it. Mm-hmm. you don't want to slander another racial group or ethnicity
No.
because that's what's happening to you, right? So,
Right.
like with Dom, I thought, oh, that's really interesting. Here we go with like the reverse racism in this
Right,
cricket
right.
club. Like they don't want the white guy to play.
Right.
So
Sure.
that's interesting, especially from this, from a British background and they conquered
Yeah.
the world and all that kind of stuff.
That's true.
But then how do you explain to a child that even though he's not wanted by this group of people for whatever reasons that really aren't his, there's not his fault, it's not even the kid's fault, it's
Right, I
these
was gonna
parents
say.
being prejudiced,
Right.
how do you explain to him that he's still enough?
Exactly. And that's the heart, and that's the only thing what I started doing was, and like you said, you don't want to be like, oh, all this is this and that. You don't want to hang out with them because they feel this way, because it may just be that parent,
Yeah.
and their own issues, obviously. But
Right.
that's another thing too. It's just like I can't wait to put him like in school. Like I chose to put him in school instead of virtual learning. I also put him in soccer, just to see like, hey, like there are other people out there that
Right.
maybe just because you don't get along with these people or you don't mesh well or all the time doesn't mean you won't do that with another person.
Right.
You just gotta be, but it's like
Good for
when
you.
when you're 5, you're only limited to your own circle. That's why I chose to do all these kind of things, and then also be like, I'm team I'm soccer. I'm signing up for PTA just so I can also be involved in around. But it's also like, so he had these opportunities to go and just meet other people,
Yeah.
and play and look like, hey, maybe as you get older, you see like it's just not. It wasn't me. It was them, or just in that incident, or in that moment, or that time period. I don't know.
It
We'll
is.
see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. This
It's
is all
tough.
new.
I think you're doing all the right things. I'm not just like, so when I was growing up, it wasn't external, but like my mom was really abusive. So I always had this, like inferiority complex, like I wasn't good enough and nobody could love me kind of thing. But it's because it was from like my homestead, like, that little thing where if your person who birthed you doesn't feel like you don't feel enough to that person, like how could you ever be enough to anybody else?
Wow.
And I almost feel like it's like the converse of like what I went through. I like all the friends and I get along with everyone. I always have, blah, blah. So I almost wonder if the opposite will happen for Dominic, like him knowing that he is enough and his family loves him and finds him beautiful and talented and you're doing all the things to just like give him opportunities. Like he's gonna realize sooner or later that it's not a him thing, it's a them thing.
For sure.
And that's why I think conversations like these are really important, because I don't have that problem. I also live in a very whitewashed neighborhood.
Right.
And that was one of my things when we moved to Florida. My husband and I was like, oh God, like, where's the diversity? Like, like, help me here. Like, I want my kid to know Latinos and Hispanics and, Blacks, African Americans. Like, I want him to know, like, every Middle Eastern culture. I want him to know and like be respectful. Like, but how can I teach him to be respectful of these different cultures if he doesn't get to engage with them? You know what I mean? So, so in a way, I'm like, oh, that's so cool that you have that. But in another way, you forget that not everybody in the world is as open-minded as a lot of us try to be. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge. Like Dom, I was just talking before we went on the call, and here's a news flash for people who are tuning in, who I haven't spoken to privately. My husband lost his job. And so one of the questions he was asked by somebody who's looking to hire him was like, do you want to move somewhere? You could go here, you could go there. And I was like, you know what? Like, if it's not one of these like 4 places in the world, I don't want to go. Not because I don't like an adventure, but one of them was like the Middle East. And I said, and I was just crazy enough reading these articles about certain countries and not trying to slander anybody, but just just really interesting perspectives on how women are treated, even in these progressive cultures. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. No. 25-year-old Brie, all about it. 35-year-old Brie, fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's also like it's I think conversations like we're talking about are so important because, you know, living in a white neighborhood with a white child, I don't have these concerns that you have right now. And I think it's really important for people like me to understand that it's really important for our kids, I'll say my child, to be open and accepting and a child of the world, because there's certain cultures, and I'm again not trying to discriminate, to slander anybody, anything. There are certain cultures in the world who aren't going to be as open-minded no matter what you do. So I do think it's incumbent on me to foster a sense of community with all different people, even if they don't want to extend the olive branch to me. So thank you for sharing that. That breaks my heart for him.
Yeah, it's really. And I tell him, like you said, like you made a good point. Like I always tell him, you know, I'm like, you're so handsome, you're this and that. You're awesome, and soccer and all these different things. So like have these, you know, opportunities to just show that he's an awesome kid.
Yeah.
You know? Like he's such a cool kid. And everyone always follows him like on what I post on social media, and they're like, oh my gosh, your son's so cute.
Stinking
and this
cute.
And that. And he loves his mama so much. Like he's so silly. He's just like, if I have like a low cut shirt, he's like, Mama, your boobas are showing out. I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to find a husband, so. Did you want another dad?
So why did you move from LA to Dallas?
Yeah, okay, so I definitely had an aha moment. You know, one of those like cliche aha moments. People talk about. I had one of those. I was 27 years old, in the shower. I just was like, I'm gonna move. You know, I've wanted to go to live in Texas for a long time. So my dad's from El Paso, and I visited El Paso like growing up here and there, and then I met one of my cousins. She was getting married in San Antonio, and I met my aunt, and she was the one who made me like fall in love with Dallas. And she like, this was like 10 years ago, maybe like 11 years ago now. I was 20 years old. And I stayed with her for a couple of days, and we drove through everywhere and drove down through Austin to San Antonio for the wedding. And she lived in Dallas, and I remember like going out there 11 years before. I was like, who the hell would live out here? Like, there's nothing around, there's nothing to do, like there's just space everywhere. Yeah, right. And then now, of course, like, when did I move here? I moved to Dallas in October 2017, almost 4 years ago.
Oh wow!
I literally lived like right where she was like taking me, and I was like, what is this place?
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's crazy how it works. And so I just, like I said, I took Dom home to that 2-bedroom apartment. I slept on the floor, I slept on the couch. Dom slept right here. I tried to breastfeed. When like your mom and dad are there. Like, and I had to have like a little nipple shield. Like, those are terrible. First of all. You know?
They are terrible. Those are terrible.
So bad. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. And I'm just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't.
Yeah.
Me and Jamal is his dad. He came to see Dominic maybe once. No, excuse me, twice. I'm sorry, twice with his mom.
Did you moved?
No, before we moved.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then I just it was very bad. He wanted to take my son. He was trying to send like these girls to come fight me, and I'm like, I am pregnant. I mean, she's not pregnant. I'm breastfeeding. Like, I just sat, you just feel like, it just.
So he wasn't coming to see his son, but he was trying.
No, I let him come, like, I let him try to come see Dom whenever. He only came when I talked to his mom, and I was like, his mom can come, and like, my mom will be there, his mom will be here, and we'll have like a piece so you can see Dominic. But he never was like there for Dominic. He was just there to like piss me off or make me mad or whatever.
Does he see him now?
No.
Not at all. Does Dom see his grandma at all or talk to her?
No.
Oh gosh.
He doesn't know her. So that's another reason why I moved to Dallas. I wanted to get away from quote unquote baby daddy, sperm donor, whatever you want to call him.
Heard.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to live with this anymore. And then another thing, going back to what we just talked about, like you said, I'm Latina, Dom, half Latina, half Black, and I was growing up in Southern California, in Orange County. It's very, very prominently.
Yeah.
And
it's very whitewashed.
So much. And I'm like, dude, I do not want him to grow up there because they're going to be like, judging him. That's another reason why I named him Dominic. Like, I remember Jamal wanted him to name something like Trayvon, and I was like, this is going to be really, sorry, this is going to be really controversial. this is going to sound messed up. This is the world we live in. People are going to look at a resume and judge your name based on a resume and be like, oh no, I'm not going to. And it's not, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's like the world we live in, and people are out there, and people are prejudiced and racist, and
people
they don't
suck.
Yeah, they just don't. And I'm like, I want to set my son up for the best success that I can. I also love the name Dominic. It's like my favorite. I thought I was going to have a girl. I thought I was going to have a girl. I had like 20 girls' names. Found out I had a boy. Oh, Dominic. But yeah, that's another time I moved to Dallas. I knew, like you said, it's so much more diverse out here. People say California is. I really do think Dallas is, because everything's together. Like, California has different pockets, like across the state. Like, it's awesome. And I love it here because, I kid you not, so I was born and raised in California, moved here as a 27-year-old, almost 28. I feel like I finally fit in somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Because everyone is so different, and I get to be Alex Vega instead of like whatever box that like people want to put you in back in California.
Damn. I mean, and I think also too, from like Mexican Latino perspective, there's not that Southern California doesn't have a lot of Latinos.
They do.
They do. But
They do.
It's almost like, it's different in Dallas, and people were like, when I moved there, people were like, oh, Dallas. Oh, I was like, actually, I fucking like Dallas.
I love it.
I like going to like the Bishop's Art District is one of my favorite, and because it's like
so cute.
And in a way, it was like a little gentrified, but it was a black neighborhood, and you had all these people, all kinds of people, coming in and out of it, and there was so much culture, and there was so much art, and there was so much good food, and that's all I really care about is good food and art.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, give me all the fun things in these neighborhoods, and then people were like, I was surprised at how much I loved living in Dallas. Yeah, it was
me too.
Different than I expected, and it was amazing. So I love it. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good because, like I said, I just feel like I can be myself here, and I have a friend that's like. I have a black friend that she's from New York. I have a tall white, blonde hair, friend, and she's from Boston. And I have this other tiny little Latina friend, and she's here in Dallas. And I just have like so many different people and we don't judge someone because we're like, oh, are you poor? Or, oh, your mom didn't this is that or whatever. We're just like, cool, like you're fun, I'm fun, let's be friends, And that was so. Everyone like, did you have a hard time kind of making friends? I was like, no, I feel like I was the first one out of my family to be like, all right, later California, I'm in Texas now, even though it's not how it works. But in my head, I'm like, I'm Texan. I was so just all about it, And I had a little glow up. I felt like it brought it out of me. I had my little glow up. I was able to just I lost a lot of weight, had more confidence in myself. I think people were noticing me a lot more, especially too, like leaving that abusive relationship. And then like people back home always like, oh, Alex and Jamal. And they like would look at me at like pity. They're like, oh, you had a kid by him. And I just wanted it's almost like I wanted a new identity in a way. Not a new identity, but like a rebirth. I'm like, hey, I can do this.
A chance to transform.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a new scene for that. 100%.
People, places, and things.
I moved from Baltimore to California at 24 because the shit hit the fan in every capacity of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up in an abusive household. A lot of people don't know that about me. My close friends do, but not like colleagues and even like, acquaintance friends or even people I hung out with. Like, I mean, we worked together. You didn't know that about me.
No.
And same kind of thing. Like I had a lot of issues with my dad. So my stepmoms, he was married 3 times, blah, 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 like all the things. And then I was like, I just need to get out of everybody's reach. Like, just leave me alone because I am suffocating. Everybody wants all this stuff from me. Everybody expects me to act a certain way. Mm-hmm. When can I just be Brianna? When do I get that opportunity?
Yeah.
100%.
No,
and
I know.
A funny thing, when I moved to Dallas, I quit True Food, and I was going to finally start like writing and like trying to like get a journalism job, and I found out like kind of like you, very surprised, like, oh, you're pregnant. Oh, I'm not supposed to be able to get pregnant. This is cool. And then it did like the same kind of 180. Like you got to like rethink all this stuff. So it's just now, 4 years in almost. Declan will be 4 April, that I'm like, okay, here's Brianna's like bubble. Here's my creative thing. I can write. I'm talking to women. It's really important that we share these experiences. It's really important that we talk about how fucked up motherhood can be and all the shit we have to do. The bullying from people. Like, how do you tell your son not to be judgmental when he's being judged? Like, just now. Like, just now. So I hear it's a different path, but like, fuck, do I hear what you're saying?
Yeah.
Shit.
Loud and clear.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
On that lovely note, how has motherhood changed you, and what do you appreciate most about your role as a mom?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, kind of like what you're saying, like, I'm just now coming into like me. Obviously, like, I've been a mom since I was pregnant and Dom was born, right? But I feel like I'm coming into me actually, like, I call it like the next level of being a mom. Like, now that like my son, I like go to the drop off line and I take my son to school, and then like I pick him up and, you know, pack the lunch and like do the PTA and do the soccer.
Oh my God.
And you know, it's just so different. It's so cute. Oh my God, I love it. I kind of word vomited on the principal. I was like, I've been waiting my whole life to do this. And she's like, okay, weirdo. I mean, yeah, no, we're cool. You can call me. And she's like, okay. But it's just like, and like but also like that moment when I found out I was pregnant to like now.
Yes.
That's such like the growth. Even just when I look at myself in the mirror, like, I don't even recognize even the woman I was like last year. You know, and that's another thing that I want to like instill in my son. Like, I don't talk bad about his dad in front of him. I don't talk about a lot of things, and I just.
Good for you. Way to take the high road.
I just because when you're doing that, you're showing your son, like, or your daughter, whoever, like, that's okay and that behavior is okay, and that's so much energy that you're like putting into that instead of to me and cultivating like me and Dominic. You know, like.
Love that.
And that's another thing. And I also, I just love, oh my gosh, I think he was put on this earth, like, through me to like show me how to love, for sure. Like, my heart is just like, meh, like, you know, like the Grinch when it grows, like.
It's in the Grinch when it grows. Yeah.
It's just like, oh my goodness. You're just like, how do you love someone so much? And then another thing I heard, like, you just worry a lot.
Yep.
I'm like, why do you worry so much? But it's like, I'm worried about like, I don't know, like, I'm worried more about, like, am I doing a good job? You know, because I'm just like, you know, especially, like, I live with my parents right now, but, like, my mom was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom for me and my two brothers. Like, I have to work. You know, I have to, and it's not like I, like, take, you know, I can work these days and I send Dom, okay, see you later, see you in 3 days, and we switch with his dad, which is, I mean, we'll do that, that's fine, just not me, just not what I'm doing right now. So that's definitely changed me a lot. Another thing too is I'm sober now, so I am.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, I was, when I moved here, I was super insecure, and then I got a little glow up, and then I was like, okay, cool, and I got all this new attention, and like after just having it, because obviously I wasn't going out when I was having a kid. No, you know, I didn't even see the sun for like a month. I think I showered. I don't know. And and then like of course you're like, yeah, like and now it's like all these people are like, oh Alex, who are you? And then they didn't know me as, like I told you, Alex and Jamal. They didn't know that side of me. So I was like, okay, so how this new? So I got a little carried away with like that limelight or that spotlight, because I was bartending and it was like a super popular area, and people like already knew me and my brother, like, oh, you know, the Vegas and this is that. So people started coming to us and wanted to take me. Then I got this new attention and made me feel good. But it's like all those like temporary, I call them temporary highs. Like, these are all temporary highs. It's not real.
Totally.
Like, when my son's at home, you know, like obviously it was with my mom. I wasn't like not being irresponsible, I guess. But it's like okay, I was like, let me go out with my friend. Hey, can I go out here? And it's just like, no, I should just. That's the one thing I do regret, is like not staying home a little bit more when he was maybe like 2. Oh yeah, I was super home. I was home a lot, and then I started working a bunch, and I thought in my head, I was like, oh, he's 2, he won't remember it. But it's like, no. I remember I wasn't working when he like had his first steps, you know, and just stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, that's not, maybe he won't remember it, but it's like, I won't remember that part of him. I just look back at pictures, and it's just like, no, that's not cool. And just because I was like being selfish at the time. And so this past March, I just was like, okay, I had an act of desperation. I just was like, yeah, I need to get some help. And I went through this like outpatient program.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good. It was really good because it also, I mean, I'm still sober, you know, and it just, I went through a lot of like trauma. It went through a lot of like family trauma healing, like exercises.
Interesting.
Which was real huge. And I'm just like, wait a second. You want me to talk about that? I've been hiding that for 15 years. So it was
How do you know? How do you know that's
what I'm
there?
saying. How do you know it's there? Well, all these different, it's like, they like weekly, and it was a 4-month, I started first week of April, and it's graduated maybe like a month ago. And all these different like homework assignments that you did, and it was like all these questions they asked you, and I'm like, I don't even know how to answer these. Like, what? Why are you attacking me? You know,
dig deep. You gotta dig deep.
Oh my god, it was so hard, and it was really mentally like exhausting because you're just like, okay, I pushed all this away with like alcohol or just whatever, and now I have to face it. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You know, but I did it, and I feel so much better, and I feel. But it also helped me with like Dominic, because I'm like, okay, a lot of the guys in there especially, they had a lot of mommy issues because their mom wasn't there, because their mom was chasing a guy after guy after guy after guy, or the mom was seeking
something that they externally that they only needed internal validation for,
which this you know, in hindsight, you know, their little boy is like, wait, and I'm like, shoot, that's, you know, Dom already doesn't have a relationship with his dad, you know, and
that's more pressure on you.
Yeah,
that's tough.
So, and that's another thing, that's another reason how Motherhood has changed me, just because like you just think of all the different things you're like that don't matter anymore when you have a kid that you thought mattered, and you're like, that was silly. That doesn't matter,
right?
You know, all these different things, and it's so cool. And I remember going back to California. I visited California in April with my brother, and because we wanted to eat food, like I said, and we missed the food. And my friend was like, "Oh, you came to see us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And love my friends. Don't get me wrong, I love my friends in California. I love them. They've been there through me with a lot, you know. But some of them, they don't have kids, and I hate. This is another thing too. I want to talk about, like the stigma of being like a single mom or having a kid.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, I'd rather have a cat. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, do you know, but don't shame me for having a kid and having being a single mom, because this is the greatest things that ever happened to me. Okay. And now I don't go home every night and drink and I have things I look forward to. Like another thing, about maybe getting sober, like I was telling people, I'm like, I look forward to getting up early and taking my son to school and going to the gym. Like that's what's fun for me. Everyone's like, oh, people that don't understand sobriety, they'll be like, or even motherhood or both, you don't want to like have a glass of wine at night to calm down. I'm like, no, I don't, because I know I have things to do tomorrow. I can't just have a glass of wine and be productive in the morning. I have a glass of wine and then I'm like, ooh, it's party, and then where am I at? You know,
then 2 bottles later, you're like, oh, hangover from hell. Heard that. And
so this is now, like, I remember when I was like super hungover or just like, oh, I wish I had this life, and I would see people, you know, it's like 6 a.m. or something, and you would see people like running and jogging. You're like, that person has their life together. I want to be that, you know? I mean, you know, quote unquote, have a life together. Obviously, maybe they don't, but in that position, I'm like,
the perception is that they have their life together. Yes.
And I always wanted to be that person. And so that's why I became sober too, just because I'm like, now I get to look forward to these like boring, mundane things that people are like, oh, I don't want to have a kid. I got to get up every day. No, I get to get up every day. I get to see my son go to school, and like those cute memories. And when we're driving away, he's just waving, and we wave till like we can't see each other anymore. Like I get to do that. Like I'm lucky to do that, you know? And that's how this has also changed the way I think, because I'm just blessed and lucky to be able to have this opportunity, and that's bottom line what it is.
It's definitely like a thought intervention, you know, like there's a podcast, I got to look it up and I'll send it to you after the fact, but it's so good. And this guy, I don't remember his name, but they play it on my chiropractors all the time. And he is, God, I don't even know what his expertise is, but he's basically the kind of guy who'll say like problems don't exist. Right and wrong doesn't exist. Okay. It's like your, addiction doesn't exist. It's your manifestation of certain situations that you're projecting all these things onto, and you're essentially telling yourself you're not good enough, you can't handle this, or you need advice to like get through something, and you hear that and you're like, oh fuck,
like, right,
that has a lot of weight. Like, stop talking to me. Because it's funny you talk about like the alcohol thing too. Like, my alcohol consumption has definitely picked up during this like pandemic, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I've definitely woken up, many times been like, did I really need that fourth glass of wine? Did I need to finish that bottle and open a second one? Because I feel like shit. And part of my punishment / is like, you don't get to lie in bed and do nothing. You got to go to the gym. You got to sweat it out. You got to get like 3 things on your to-do list because you were an asshole. And that you need like teach yourself not to be a dick. Like, you know better. Why are you doing that? So your son is going to wake up at 6:30 at the latest every day. What the fuck is wrong with you, Brianna?
Yeah, you know better.
What is your problem?
No, there's no pity party here.
There's no pity party.
Right. I did it to myself. I should know better. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge transition. So, but not a huge transition, but like for the more positive, for the better. Like, I love it. People will be like, are you going to ever drink again? I'm like, that's kind of a weird question to ask someone when they're trying to get sober, but they do. And especially because I still bartend. I'm a sober bartender.
Hey, I know a bunch of people who are sober bartenders, but I think it's admirable for you to like try something different, you know?
Thank you.
I know people who have like stepped out of drinking alcohol or whatever, and they go back to it with a more responsible mindset. And I know people who, you know, are in AA and, you know, are mentors and leaders in those organizations who can never touch it again.
Yeah.
It's also interesting how they become very tuned into like cigarettes and coffee, but but you know, c'est la vie. But I also think that just having an awareness of what you can control and what you can't control, and how you can be your most authentic self is really important. And sometimes you need to, like, stepping away from California is no different than stepping away from alcohol for you. Maybe you'll drink wine again, maybe. Maybe you'll have a beer again, sure. Maybe it'll be that micheladas are your thing, who knows. Right, just to throw the Latina card in there. Sorry. I had to. And me too. I loved them until, oh gosh. But I think that just giving yourself a break.
Yeah.
You are, in my perspective and in my opinion, it's hard to be mom and dad. That's really hard to be mom and dad, you know? You got to worry about so much more stuff than like I do when I see my son with his father. Like, and that's a load. So to give yourself the space to like navigate all the other things you need to navigate, I'm like I'm applauding you, and I think that's incredible that you just took that time for yourself. Like, holy shit, that's a lesson we all probably need to learn, for real. Not that you need my validation. No, you're perfectly fine on your own.
It means a lot because, like you said, like I'm doing all these things, all these different things, and some people are like, wow, like that is crazy that you even thought to do that, because a lot of people don't do that.
Exactly.
And in my head, I'm like, I kind of had no choice. Like, it was getting, like, I was getting too out of control. But not necessarily just drinking all the time, but just the things that weren't, if I want to go this way in my career and path and motherhood, and I'm doing this, these aren't aligning. You know? And I'm not, like, I've been bartending, I'm 31. I'm going to be 32 in January. Not saying that's old. I'm just saying, like, I've been doing the same thing over and over and over again for, like, 12, 15 years. Something's got to change. And something drastic has to change. Not like, I'm not going to do dairy this week. You know, like something big's got to change. You know what I mean? Like,
do dairy this.
Yeah, I'm gonna do keto for a little bit. Like, no, you really got to like change and do a huge look yourself at 180 and be like, okay, if I want to go here, I got to cut some things out. Who cares? And like, just be unapologetic to yourself, because that's it. Like, I mean, I lost some friends, and I gained some new ones. And it is what it is. It could be scary for a lot of people. They think they can't do it. And I'm like, if you guys know I could do it, you could definitely do it. I promise you.
I think just that awareness is half the battle. Some people don't, like, they know they need to change, but they don't even know where to start.
Correct.
So they just keep doing the same thing because it's all they know, and it's the, the comfort of the known is more welcoming and warm than that uncomfortable unknown. Mm-hmm. Dang, that's good shit there, Alex.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get into what I like to call the nada. What is the most useless information or recommendation you received while pregnant?
Well, my boss told me I'd have an abortion because it would ruin my management career. There's that. Yeah, sorry, I opened that can of worms. But, fuck! Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. No. But, like, I have to live
personal
with that,
choice.
not you. Yeah, it's personal choice, regardless of whoever does it, whatever. It's a personal choice.
But someone to tell you that.
Someone to tell you that. And, like, for a restaurant management career, I'm good. If I'm being honest with you, I'm good. Another thing, too, I just think, like, all this different, like I took a birthing class. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, whatever, you guys want to take a birthing class, you think that's what you need to do, that's fine. For me, my labor was, I planned for a vaginal birth.
Yeah.
I ended up having an emergency C-section like 36 hours later.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so, and then like that, and it was terrible. It was so bad, and just like, I was so happy to not be pregnant anymore. I don't know, I was like, thank God. I think it was like the first thing I said when like, laying there, just hyped up on like, Pitocin, epidural, and then whatever the anesthesia, whatever they give you. And then like, I'm like, I'm not pregnant anymore. Like, trying not to throw up, like having a weird reaction. I was like, Like, it was not cute. It was not cute at all.
Labor is not cute at all in any way, shape, or form.
No, absolutely not. People are like, oh, I popped my baby in like 6 minutes. Cute. Good for you. I'm very jealous. I'm very happy for you because you don't have to deal with like anything. Like, oh man, it was so bad. And then, they're like, do you want to hold your baby? I was like, no, get him away from me. Like, I just couldn't even move. Bottom, like here, and I just like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, it was just so bad, dude. Like, that moment that you're like, oh, you're getting it the first time you do like the whatever, like the little chest.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, dude, absolutely not. Leave me alone. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I was in the bed. I just didn't feel good. I was freaking out. It was not cute. It was not what people talk about. People need to talk. That's the one thing I tell my friends all the time. I'm like, people need to talk about like that side of like, birth or motherhood or labor or whatever. Like, people don't. Really, I feel like, I don't know if we're scared to tell other people. It's gonna suck, It's really gonna suck. Just be prepared for all the things. Like, I prepared for a vaginal birth, had a C-section.
That recovery is fun.
It was not fun. I mean, my other friend, you know Jessica? Mm-hmm. You remember Jessica? She had the twin girls?
Yeah.
We had one, and I think she went in and was like, fine, and I just was like, oh. But hers was scheduled. But obviously everyone's body's different.
Yeah, that's true.
She has her own story to tell, but, I was just terrible. And then, my foot grew a size. I mean, I was a size 9. I was a size like 7.5, 8 forever. And I'm like, dude, no one tells me this.
Yeah, it's not happening.
I'm so mad. But like, also, I'm like, cool, I get to buy new shoes. But like, no one tells me that. And I have size 9 feet, and they still have, they're like, oh, they'll shrink. No, they never did. And you know what?
Crazy.
This like fat roll, not a fat roll, but like the skin roll.
Yeah.
It's still here in all its glory. Still here. It's so, and everyone's like, oh, I don't want to, like for me, people are like, oh, you have a C-section scar. I'm like, my belly looks like a tiger just like went to town on it with like stretch marks, dude. And just like the rolls are just like hanging. I remember my little gown. I'm like, what is this? Like, still just like kind of like coming down off all whatever drugs, just like crying. I'm like, oh, I like smell bad. No, okay, it's not. It wasn't. Yeah, I was so sad. And I think I like was like farting because uncontrollably and just like crying.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's just like, no. You're like, can I come and see your baby? I'm just like, no, I don't know.
Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
Go away.
Just go away.
I can't sleep. And then they try to breastfeed, put the nipple shield on it, and that was hard. I'm just crying. You're just crying all the time. When I was coming home, I came home from the hospital crying all the time. I think I would like to have been more prepared for that moment, but that's okay.
So what do you wish you would have known about being a mom?
Oh man, just it's not like, it's you're gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna be okay, because I feel like I didn't think I was gonna be okay, and because people always ask like, how do you know how to do this? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm like, yeah, there's books out there you can read, and there's stuff like that, but like, I am just doing best with the cards I've been dealt. I say that all the time, and that I'm gonna be okay. He's like, look, and it may be like, you may feel like, oh my gosh, like my kid's not going to sleep, and he's like, I'll never recover. Like, I'm gonna die from exhaustion or whatever, and because you feel like that sometimes.
Oh,
and
yes.
that's okay.
Totally.
It's okay to feel like that, and don't be shamed if you are tired. People expect us to be, superhero moms, and sometimes it's like not okay. It's sometimes you just need to cry all the time, or just look. I just remember like laying there, like looking at my baby, and like with like so much love, but you're just like, oh my god, this is real. Like, especially when you first take home your son,
Yeah,
or your
like,
daughter,
oh,
or whatever.
fuck.
You're just kind of like, I gotta do this the rest of my life. I'm confused. You're like, whoa.
It's weird. It's weird that I'm gonna just piggyback on that for a second. Like, I remember people saying like, you're gonna feel this like crazy like euphoria and love, and I didn't feel that right away. I felt an intense sense of protection.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel this all-encompassing, like, oh, I have so much reverence for this being. It was more like, you get in my way, I will fucking slice you kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was my experience.
Yeah.
That's
funny. No, I didn't have it either. I really had real bad, like, postpartum, but I don't think it was because I was rejecting Dominic. It took me a while to... because I didn't think I could really like show, I'm not really like affectionate. So I don't think it took time to do that. And
Gotcha.
So that would make me worried. I was just like, oh my God. I mean, now, oh my goodness, so affectionate, but like with my son still, just with him. And that took me a really long time to kind of get over. And
I get that.
too, like, yeah, it just was like, okay, am I supposed to be like how, you picture, like everyone pictures, like, they always picture like the family and the mom just like this and the dad like this, and it's so precious and perfect, and like you said, like you think the perception, and it's not like that, and it's okay if it's not like that. It's really going to be okay, and it's super awesome that you're this person's mama, because it's so awesome. It's so cute. Like, it's just like all the things that like your baby does, and like even as like he's younger and all you're like, where do you learn how to say that? How do you do that? It's just so silly.
Yeah.
Little fun things that they see on, I saw it on YouTube, or I saw it on this, and it's just like, it's
like,
so
what?
fun.
Where'd you get that from?
Yeah. Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, for real. It's funny what they pick up on, for sure.
Well, and another thing too, like, so I just planned this girl's baby shower from work, and it was oh dear, a little buck is here. She's like, I guess she's really into hunting, and I'm so glad I picked that theme. And I was like, perfect. And it was just super cute, because, we were talking to other people, like, what should I get her? What should I do this? And I was like, honestly, like, you don't need to worry about, like, the nursery or this, like, if you were able to take your baby home to that's awesome. Like, you're so lucky for you. But if you aren't, like, it's okay. Like, I didn't have a nursery. Like, you don't need to stress over those things like that. Like, maybe get them, what I should have known would be like medicine, or, little things that you don't think of at the time, because all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, what am I supposed to get, baby medicine? Your baby's coughing and crying and freaking out, and now you got to run to Walmart, and what if it's 2 a.m? Like, that's another thing where I'm like, okay, all these practical things that you don't think about. People get like so many clothes, like, cool. Yeah. All the clothes that I got from baby shower, if it wasn't hand-me-down and new ones, he probably didn't even fit in it by the time I got to it. Yeah. People are also so tired of like, okay, you're in a onesie forever. So it's just all these different things. You're like, okay, practicality versus what you see on Pinterest.
I think that's a good thing. That's a really good note too. Like, get the Tylenol and like the baby ibuprofen and stuff for that first fever. Nobody got that for me. I had no idea. Gotta be prepared.
Gas. They have gas and have little drops, little gripe water, or whatever.
Totally.
All these different things that you don't think about. You're like, oh, duh. Because in the time, obviously, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're freaking out. I remember I drove Dominic with my dad like 5 a.m. to the hospital. Turns out he just like needed a fart or something. I was just like, oh, my baby can't go to sleep. So, because you're just exhausted.
He needed
freaking out.
Oh, man. I gotta cut us off, but
No, you're good.
thank you, Vega, for being here. I loved all your realness and all your insight.
This was so fun.
That's awesome. I'm the mom who knows nada. My name is Brianna. This is the Mama Knows Nada podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to find out all the things you didn't know you needed to know.